Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to talk about how to do digital innovation that works. And this is based on my experience in consulting several enterprises as well as several startups who are trying to innovate and break the monotony of business in today's world. So, first of all, let us understand what is digital transformation. I think it's a very loosely used word. Digital transformation is a very advanced stage where your entire business is transformed in a digital structure. Rather than that, most of the businesses are actually doing either digital adoption or digital innovation. So let us try to understand what is the difference between these three different paradigms. So digital adoption means that there is a particular technology and there is a particular capability which can be brought into the company using digital adoption by adopting digital techniques, tools, which are available in the market, which are already been done by a lot of different companies, either from the same industry or from lateral industries. So that is basically adopting those simple digital tools which has not yet been adopted by the company. So in a other way, it's like a catch-up game that you are playing. Second is digital innovation. This means you are trying to go a step forward. You are trying to do something which is different from what has been done in the industry because you have found an interesting pain point or an interesting area where people are joyous by using that particular new innovative idea that you are trying to propose. Last and obviously the most important is digital transformation, where the entire business gets transformed into a digital business altogether. And digital kind of adds new dimensions to the business from ground up. So think about a company which has been into a traditional business like a Blockbuster, right, which is basically into CD rental. When they completely transform themselves into something like Netflix, right, that is what we call digital transformation. Everything else can be categorized into either digital adoption or digital innovation, depending upon when you actually did that job. Were you the first mover or were you a follower? Now, I just want to give you a little bit of a structure to start thinking about how the digital innovation journey has happened over years and what lies in the future. So if you see the digital technology has over a period of time, it has evolved from setting the basic infrastructure and then building the basic applications on top of that infrastructure. And now it's moving on to the data side of things. And that is why you hear a lot of noise about data and analytics. So the focus has also moved from enterprise to business functions to individuals now. Now let me explain it a little better. So when we talk about infrastructure and related enterprise focus, this means that companies started putting in supercomputers and mini computers and large networks of computers to basically improve the infrastructure of their company, to increase their processing speed inside the company, to bring in new capabilities which were not there because they were all computing manually. So we brought in computers, we brought in processing power, and that is how the enterprise side kind of evolved. The next, which was like the business functions wanted to have new functionality, new capability built into the organization, and that is where the application side of innovation happened, and which continues to happen even today. So if you see, lots of companies are building lots of new applications every day, and the objective of those applications is to basically solve some or other business function in the company. Now, if you are trying to solve a very interesting problem inside the company, either for the customer or for your internal employee, that you can count as an innovation. Right? Now, the third is, which is the evolving paradigm at this point of time, which is the data. So after you have got the infrastructure and applications, now what is happening is everybody is looking at the data that this application is throwing out. As a particular study that has been done recently, almost 70% of the data that comes out of the applications inside a company is never used for any proper business purpose. It is never analyzed, it is never evaluated, and it is never used. And that's a huge, huge loss inside a business. So now everybody is looking at the data, that how can we actually now do innovation on the data side, and how can we look at data in different ways. And what do you do when you start looking at data? You actually start empowering individuals. Right? So you are moving from business functions to individuals who work in this business function. So why individuals? Because what actually you are doing, frankly speaking, is peeking into customers and employees' brain. Right? So a lot of data that you already get inside the organization, it also allows you to peek into customers and employees' brain. You understand that what they are actually looking to achieve, what they are trying to do. And that should not only be done with the help of data, but also conversations and observations are very, very important to understand that what exactly is the customer going through, what exactly is he looking to achieve, and what is his pain points. it's very difficult for a customer to actually tell you what do they really need. Right? These things comes into the conversations when they express their frustration, or they express their joy, or they express a feeling of getting missing out on certain thing which a competitor is offering to them. So the whole idea is to have a very normal conversation where you try to figure out and pick the signals. And once you get the signals, you will understand their pains and joys, and this will give way to your innovations. So innovation is not something that you start with the end objective in mind. It's something that you start with the customer's joys and pains in mind, and try to see that if this is a problem statement that we want to solve, what exactly do we need to do, and what kind of changes on our side, and how we can use digital to kind of solve those problems. And a lot of times it may not only be digital, it may be also changes in process in the company, it may also be behavioral change inside the company, it may also be a change in strategic direction inside the company. So digital innovation should not be taken as an isolation. So once you have understood what are the pain points of a customer, what are the challenges that he might be facing, obviously now we have to come to a solution to that, right? Now, solution, a lot of times what happens is that you have a head of innovation in the company, and he looks at doing all the solutioning, and that, what kind of ideas can be brought to solve it. I think this is an extremely flawed method. A lot of times you also see that companies have put, let's say $10 million budget for innovation. I don't see those models working anymore. Innovation happens when you bring in a lot of people from different diversity, and that's why diversity is very important. When you bring these people from diverse set of departments, diverse set of facets of life into that room, and you throw the problem at them and say, see, this is a problem that what we have realized while talking to these customers, and this is why we have understood, or we feel that this is a problem. Now, what do you think? How can we solve it? And again, let us not do these conversations with digital as the center of the discussion. The solutions should be discussed first, and then we can see how digital can be applied to it. Because digital brings you certain capabilities. Digital is not the solution. It brings you certain capabilities which can help you solve certain problems in a better way. Right? So ideate in teams. Don't ideate just individually and try to say, okay, this is the problem. So X is the problem. Y is the solution. Let's move ahead. For a problem X, you may have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. You may have 7, 8, 9 solutions which has come from different people. And the more you ideate, the more these solutions becomes more and more concrete and more structured. Once you have these possible solutions in hand, you now start looking at, bringing these innovations to life, right? And here humbleness is very important. A lot of time people see an exciting idea and they say, okay, this is it, right? We have cracked it. We have done the best thing that can be done in the world. And that is where things starts falling out, right? Because you still don't know if that particular innovation that you have thought to solve that problem is going to work or not. So what you need to do is basically you need to start piloting those innovations. You need to do them in a small way, right? And when you're doing them in a small way and measure the effectiveness of that innovation, that how is it working, how is it impacting, what data is coming out of it, then you know what you need to change into it. So all these basic ideas that you have taken out, maybe out of 8 ideas, you will work on 2 or 3 ideas. Each of these ideas need to be implemented in a pilot way. After implementing on pilot, you should measure it continuously and iterate it to improve it and improve it and improve it, right? And do not hesitate to shelf a particular idea if it does not have the ROI. Because if it does not have the ROI and you just push it because of personal ego or because of a personal, fear of writing off a loss, then there is a big problem because it will result in a bigger loss in days to come. So pilots will provide product purpose fit, that if this is the purpose that we wanted to do and that product is fulfilling that purpose, that's great, right? Now you need to, as I said, why you measuring it? You are measuring to understand the financial feasibility of that, so that there is a product has a market fit also and a wider acceptance, not only outside the company, but also inside the company with the management, with the board, with the shareholders. They all need to be aligned with what you are trying to do eventually. So now, when you do a lot of innovation with data, what exactly this innovation leads to, right? So why you need to do a lot of innovation with data right now, right? Organizations have grown over years and they have become much more structured than what they were a few decades back. In today's organization, you know what are the functions, you know what is the infrastructure. These are all very mundane things. And these are already set. We know how to do all those things. Now, the biggest challenge, if you ask any CEO or any senior manager, they say, the biggest problem is people problem. Now, the data actually solves the people problem. Now, how does data solve a people problem? Because And the bigger problem in people problem is that their lack of experience and their lack of homogeneity in their execution of work. So if this means that if you give a task to A, B, or C, all the three people might not be able to do the same work at the same level of quality with the same understanding. Right? The difference between these three people, bearing about their IQ, the basic IQ, is their understanding of the sub problem, availability of data, and their ability to interpret data and experience. That how do I evaluate what this data mean and what decision he should take. And the wrong decisions are actually the biggest difference between A, B, or C as three individuals who are empowered to do the particular job. And another problem is that if you don't have empowered people, nothing moves in the organization. Nobody takes a decision. So to take decision, you need experience. You don't have all experienced people in the organization. So what does analytics do? So analytics basically gives you insights. And these insights, which are basically converting the very, very light signals that comes out of the business, right, into strong signals. It converts, it gives you an idea that, okay, if this particular data says this, this means this. Right? Until and unless this knowledge and capability is available to each and every individual inside the company, it becomes very difficult for him to take decision with conviction. So analytics provide conviction when you take decision, and therefore eventually you can actually delegate decision making to your lower levels inside the organizations. And that is the power of data analytics. Now, a lot of people confuse data analytics with AI. Right? Let's not jump to reach artificial intelligence and machine learning. Right? The most important thing is to first do data analytics in a proper way. That itself can create a massive amount of value for your business. Once you have done that, then obviously you need to create systems which can self-learn and which can automatically create new models and new ideas. Right? Then you go to a level of machine learning. And then eventually you evolve to artificial intelligence, and that takes time. It's not going to happen on day one or day two or day three of your becoming a data-driven organization. So you have to have patience and you have to eventually build to that. But the beginning starts with something very simple. You have a lot of data. How do you analyze that data and how you can actually create a data-driven organization? Obviously, creating the right innovation is not everything. You need to create a low friction deployment methodology. This means that when you are trying to deploy a particular innovation, how can people feel more comfortable using it? How can you make sure that there are not roadblocks in the way to get it out in the market? Right? So you need to stay away from the buzzwords. That's the most important thing, right? Because every buzzword has got different meaning for different people. So you need to be very, very clear what exactly you are saying in plain, simple English to every person inside your company. Available data is good to start. So don't try to go and start creating new data, because creating new data needs special effort. Right? This means that there is another cycle of adoption inside the organization or by the customer so that the new data can come. Right? So don't try to get into new data. Start using the existing data that you have got. Right? So for example, lots of companies, the moment they think about innovation and digital innovation, and nowadays, when the moment the person thinks about digital innovation, he starts thinking AI. And the moment he thinks AI, he says, let's put 10,000 sensors inside my factory. I don't think any of these make sense until unless you reach a point where you really need the sensors, where you have already consumed all the data that you have at hand, and where you are in a much better position to now implement sensors. And people are also in favor of that because they have already seen the benefit of using data which was anyways there in the system. Right? So last but not the least, as I said, what can you get out of existing assets without further investing into extracting more data? So this is very, very critical, because the more you try to do before you start showing results and value to your stakeholders, be it employees, be it customers, nobody in this world is ready to put extra effort into giving you more data or creating more data or creating new processes and systems in the company. So any innovation that you do, at the end of the day, it has to scale. If it doesn't scale, then it is no value, right? Because the benefit then is a very small, tiny benefit which has very little value for anybody. And scalability comes from repeatability, right? And is the innovation repeatable? The repeatability means anything can only be repeated if it is sticky, if it becomes a habit, right? And then only it survives on its own. So the focus needs to be on scale. And if the focus has to be on scale, the focus has to be on creating a habit of using that innovation that you are introducing inside the organization. How do you do this? This is a very simple model. It's called the hook. It's from a book by Nirayal called The Hooked. And again, it's a very simple model which is being used extensively by new age companies like Facebook, like Twitter, all these companies that you see on social media, and it's all about creating a habit, right? How do you create a habit? You basically have, there are four elements to it. You trigger a particular incident by which a person has to use that. Once the person particularly use that, that tool that you have created, right? Then an action, right? And then with an action, whatever activity he does, there is a reward that comes out of it. Right? And when a reward comes out of, the person has to further invest his time into that particular system. So if a person is investing into something, he doesn't generally throw it out. It starts becoming a part of his habit. Think about it, what happens on Facebook, right? So Facebook, what is a trigger? A particular message that comes and tells you that there is a message which is left for, that is coming to your inbox in Facebook. That's a trigger. The moment you see that notification, you jump onto a Facebook, you go into it. That's the action. You go into it, you see which post has been liked, what has people said, what have people said on that post, what are they liking and not liking about your post, right? And that is a reward, because that gives a dopamine rush to you, right? That's a reward to you when you see all that, right? Once you see that, what you are doing is basically, you might also write a comment, or you might also do a counter argument on that point itself. That's your investment further into the system. The more you are invested, the more you are waiting for a trigger to come, because you are actually considering yourself as a part of the system, and not consider these two things as a separate system. Similarly, when you are building products or building innovation for your customers, for your users, you have to keep this basic simple model in mind. You may not be able to create it as addictive as Facebook, but obviously with some practice and some thinking process been put into the system, you will at least be able to create something which is strong enough to make it a basic habit among the user base you are looking at. Innovation must be unique. So a lot of times what we do is we take up off-the-shelf product and we say, okay, let's just put it in, and we have done digital innovation. It doesn't work that way. You can do digital adoption that way. So if you don't have a messaging system, you buy a messaging system off the shelf, you put it in, great, you have got a digital adoption. It was not there, now you have that, right? But if you really want to do innovation, this means there is something different, something which is linked to the customer's insights that you have gathered, and which is very unique to your customers, or this is a unique way how you want to solve a problem, so that you have a competitive advantage in the industry. So don't go for digital innovation on the off-the-shelf model. It doesn't work. It is in itself is a self-defeating terminology, that you are, buying off-the-shelf digital innovation is a self-defeating terminology. So never get into that trap. Right? You have your own secret sauce. Without your own secret sauce, your innovation is not going to stick for long, and it won't be your competitive advantage for a longer period of time. And there's a big hint, before you go for a large scale digital transformation, people transformation is much more important, right? If your people are not transformed into using digital in a proper way, if your people are all never comfortable, getting onto online calls, if they are not comfortable doing co-editing of a document which is online, if they are not comfortable in accessing an online shared Excel sheet or a Google spreadsheet, but they need something in print only, it's never going to work as a digital transformation project inside the company. Because the people first have to transform their mindset, their habits, and their overall, they have to believe in the power of digital before the company can actually implement and transform itself in a digital frame. And at the end of the day, most important thing is focus, right? Focus not only on one given solution, because you will have to keep experimenting with different solutions, but focus on the key problem that you want to solve, right? Every time, everywhere, the problem should be on the top of your mind that you are trying to solve using an innovative technology or innovative technique. And you will keep finding solutions, you will keep finding new ideas in places you have never expected. And that is the power, when you keep a problem in your mind, right? Solutions will automatically come to you. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to write to me at talash@indusnet.co.in. Thank you.